then we can all follow along.
And it's also available on the video description.
Video description below the video. It's also pasted in there. Thanks, Sam. I suppose I should hit the start recording button, shouldn't I? It's okay, I don't have to do that? Or I do need to do that? Should I click start recording? Okay. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Hopefully we are all in attendance. I'm going to go ahead and switch back again from the welcome screen to the browse screen so you can see what I'm looking at and I can see what you're looking at the same time. Hi, my name is Matthew Willems and I work in educational technology here in Denver Public Schools, in case you haven't met me yet. And it's my privilege to help schools with their school websites. So if you've got a question about a school website, I'm the right person to start. I may not be the one that has the end answer, but I'm definitely a good place to start. So I did put together a nice little website with some outcomes for today that I hope we'll be able to get through. But please, if you have specific questions, don't hesitate. Please put them in the chat window and Sam will forward those along to me and we'll try to get those in here. So it's a small enough group, we should be able to get everybody's needs taken care of. And if we really need to, on the back end, we could set up a time when I can come out and sit with you and we can have a longer detailed chat about anything specific. So if there are any questions about the outcomes, I'm not going to read through them. You've got the website and can check those yourself. But if there are specific questions about any of those outcomes or other outcomes that you were hoping for, put those in the chat window and we'll take care of that. So I'm going to jump right in. First thing is I get a lot of questions, well, not a lot of questions. Periodically I get questions about why a school should use a DPS site. And I typically tell them a story that is repeated a couple, 2 or 3 times every year where a school will choose to go to an external host because they had a well-meaning parent who said, hey, I can do all of this for you, and they put it up on their server, and then 2 years later their kid leaves the school and nobody at the school has access to their site anymore, and nobody in the district has access to their site anymore. I have every year 2 or 3 schools saying, hey, help us out, we lost our access and can you set us up with a DPS website? And I also have 2 or 3 schools every year that choose to move to an external host for whatever reason. I don't know, but I know I'll be seeing them again in a couple of years when they come back. So save yourself the trouble and let's just figure out how to make things work for you within the context of having a DPS school site already provided for you. One of the issues that I've had most recently is the idea that schools want to have a mobile app. And there are a couple of vendors. I'm not connected to any of them and I have no preference for any of them. I have some concerns about their lack of shall we say, security concerns for the information that's housed on a school app. People end up posting photographs of students regardless of media releases, and people can download anybody's app for a particular school without having to have permission to join that app. Lots of things that make me a little nervous, but if your school does happen to contract out for an app, they don't need to also move to an external host. The vendor will tell you that they can provide that for you and charge you for it, but there's no need to have an externally hosted site to support an app. That works perfectly well within the structure of having a DPS website. So again, the main idea here for me is that a DPS website is sustainable. It's the database and the site files are backed up daily. So if something does go wrong, there's somebody available to help, and that would be me or folks in the communications office. I listed Felicia Michael's name on there, and that's a good contact as well. The district also pays for all of this hosting, so there's no need for the schools to create a new domain and pay the domain name charge and the hosting charge and the development fees when the hosting and the backups and the domain, that's already taken care of. So save yourself some money. We don't have a lot of extra funds to just throw around because some parent said, hey, let's do it. I love our parents, and I support parents using the DPS websites and supporting school sites as well, but let's keep it in-house, folks. So the other thing is at some point the district is going to need better access to school sites and school apps in order to consolidate and facilitate messaging to our community. A good example might be a snow day. The district has people who make the call on whether there is a weather delay or cancellation, and if there are 160 different schools and 160 different sites and 160 different apps that message needs to go out on, that's a lot of work, and schools typically don't have in-house folks that are assigned to getting up at 4:30 in the morning, checking on the status, and sending that message out through the school's communications venues. I hope you're getting the idea that it might be sustainable at the school level, but not at a district level. So think big picture here, and you'll see why it also may be very helpful to have a district school website at this point. I have heard talks of the district putting together an app that might allow schools to have listings in there so that parents could subscribe to specific schools or automatically be subscribed to schools where their students are already enrolled according to Infinite Campus, that kind of thing. No timeline on that, and no idea if that's ever actually going to happen or not, but I've heard conversations around it, so that might be a good idea at some point too. So a district supported website is going to be hosted as a WordPress site, and the first question I always get there is, how do I add new users? And people often will email me and say, hey, give so-and-so access, they're going to be running the site. Well, I'm happy to help out, but if you are already an admin on a WordPress site in DPS, you have the ability to do that already. So the process for somebody who is an internal site, internal DPS user, they would go to your website and sign in with their DPS username and password. I've already signed into my testing sandbox site, and I'm going to look at my users section here. And I only have 2 people who are currently even listed on this site. If a person signs into your site, they will actually be added, and this should be dropping down. There we go. It will add them as a subscriber account, which does not have any rights to do anything. But you have the ability to go in as an admin and change their role to any of these other options. So a subscriber doesn't do anything other than has an account. A contributor is basically someone who can contribute content, but nobody can see it unless it's approved. An author can can create content that doesn't need to be approved. An editor can manage author level content and contributor level content, but can't change users, can't change the theme, that kind of thing. And an administrator basically does anything he wants to, which is what you would be doing. So that's how you would get internal users on here. If it's an external person, like one of our wonderful parent volunteers, and I have many schools that do rely on parent volunteers, then they would contact me and I would manually create their username for them. I found that to be very helpful for them to work through me, even though technically you could probably figure out the steps to get through it without too much trouble and not disable your website too badly. But I wouldn't recommend it because, again, in terms of sustainability, I have that email paper trail to be able to go back. So if a parent has a question about their username or password, I have access to that kind of information and can help them out. I'm also available for training and support. So if you've got questions about your specific theme or your school site, or you have some questions, I'm a good resource either for DPS folks or our nice family volunteers. So hopefully nobody has any questions about users, but if you do, let me know. Also, in terms of WordPress, the communications office has a very detailed rebranding process that schools can participate in. If you're interested, I can bring one up really quickly. This is a fairly normal looking site for the rebranding effort, where you've got a nice slider up at the top, nice welcome message, very big block areas here for your normal content, a connected Google Calendar for events down towards the bottom, and then additional branding for the district and the school down in the very footer of the site. So this is a kind of.
We lost sound momentarily.
Oh, are we back? We're back.
We're back.
Okay, good. Sorry about the sound, folks. I was just explaining that the Teller site is kind of a base model of what the communications office might be creating for you. And if you happen to look at the new DPS website, you'll notice that it's looking a bit like the school sites. So the communications office is already working within the visual structures of what the district is moving towards as well. So nice to keep things sort of similar enough that people feel comfortable wherever they happen to be going. So the question of themes comes up quite a bit, and your theme, when you visit the dashboard, the first thing it'll tell you, it may at the very top say, hey, there's a new version of WordPress available, please update me. Please don't update me. The updates currently are still being done manually, and I'm going to ask a little bit later for you to identify yourself and your school if you think you're going to be needing an updated version of WordPress. I can certainly do that. The current version that we're running is 4.6.1, which is the most recent released version. There is a WordPress 4.7 beta that's probably going to sneak out sometime before the end of the calendar year, or maybe early in January, based on some previous timelines that I've seen from them. But you can tell if you're working with the newest base of code. At the bottom of the dashboard, you'll see a sign at the bottom that says, thank you for creating with Project NAMI. And I can't quite see that. Let's see if I can bring that up a little bit better. There we go. So at the bottom of the screen of the dashboard, when you first sign in, you're going to see something that says, thank you for creating with Project NAMI. That tells you that you are working with the most recent, or one of the most recent versions of WordPress that work inside the DPS structure. Long story, try to shorten it. The basic reason that we're using Project NAMI instead of just a default WordPress installation has to do with our databases. We use a Microsoft SQL in the district, and Project NAMI allows us to use WordPress in that database environment rather than the MySQL normal WordPress backend. I have that later in the agenda, but I'll go ahead and let you know the district is looking at trying to migrate over to just using MySQL databases. But that's, again, a slow process, but eventually we'll be getting there. All right. So themes. The theme is what defines how your site looks. So for example, this site has a nice little logo up at the top and pretty much no content on here, but when you scroll down, stuff starts to show up. This functionality, how things work like this, these blocks, the fonts, the piece down at the bottom, all of those things are defined by your theme. And themes, using a newer version of WordPress, have a very nice customization section, which allow you to do things like changing the name of the site. That doesn't change your address, it just changes the name that shows up on the site. An image, so if something shows up perhaps on the header, the logo itself, you can upload your own logo in this particular theme. Color schemes, this is just an accent color. They've got an orange selected, which is nice for Bronco fans. Menus, which are really nice. I'd like to explain those a little bit more in detail in another location, but it allows you to select a menu and choose which menu shows up, and then you can also edit the menu and show you how that works. Widgets are usually small boxes that show up somewhere on the side of your site. Like down here, this is a footer area widget. This particular theme has only footer widgets. It doesn't have an area for a sidebar or up in the header. Some themes do allow you to add widgets to those locations as well. And then you can also choose whether you have a specific page, or you can choose to have a selection from your latest posts if you're doing posts instead of pages. So I didn't want to make any changes here, so I'm just going to click back. Come on. Yeah, leave. And I'm going back to the dashboard. Your content can be either set up as a post or as a page. A post is a special kind of a page, and a page is a special kind of a post. So some themes treat posts a little differently. Typically, schools will use pages for content that doesn't get changed all the time, and posts for things like news items, updates, things like that. Media is where your library of photos and files will be found, if you happen to have any. This Sandbox site does not. Periodically, people who are experimenting with things and want to test them out before they crash their own site will request access to this Sandbox. And I'm happy to give access to anybody that wants to just tinker around with it. In fact, if you want to visit this site and play around in here while we're talking, you can go to cms.dpsk12.org/sandbox/wp-admin and just sign in with your account, and I'll go back and check the users in a little bit and change people to admins. So feel free to sign in here if you want to play around in it, but typically what happens is after a while enough people have played with it that the site's no longer usable, and I just delete it and start over with a new one. So the Sandbox is an actual sandbox. It's not intended to be a deployed school site. Alright, so if I'm actually in a page and here is a page, I'm just going to click on the title to edit it, and there's my content. I've got a text and a visual view, and this one has a whole bunch of stuff that looks like web code in here. These brackets that are different from the bracket that's used for HTML indicate to me something called a short code, and that's kind of like special code that WordPress understands. So this is a WordPress function to create a particular effect. So I'm actually going to switch to a different theme entirely because this Brooklyn theme is a little crazy. So I'm just going to go back and I'm going to use the currently default theme of 2016. By the way, you can always do a live preview of a theme just to see what that's going to look like before you choose to actually use it or not. And I'm going to go ahead and activate this just so I've got a little more normal looking website to work with. Alright, now when I'm looking at pages, and again, most of these things were created by the last person who was testing that Brooklyn theme, and you can see that's what we're getting on all of these is shortcode stuff. I'm just going to create a new page. And I'm going to call this new home. I'm going to go ahead and click this last button on the toolbar. It says toggle toolbar. That gives me a few more options. If that isn't enough, most sites will have, sorry, let me stay here for a moment and publish this, even though there's nothing on this page yet. Most sites already have a new editor installed. And if you scroll down, you'll probably find in the plugins a plugin called TinyMCE. Plugins allow for additional functionality to WordPress. So if there's something you would like WordPress to do that it doesn't do natively, there probably is a plugin somewhere that will help do that. So I'm going to go ahead and activate this plugin. And now when I look at my settings, I get a new setting for that plugin. And it allows me to change what shows up in my editor. So I like to add a few things like fully justify to the options here. I like to add the non-breaking space because sometimes you just gotta have a space that pushes an image over or something. I'm going to add another one for, let's see what's another good one. Most of the other ones that I would like are already up here in the order I would like them in. Oh, strike through. That's a good one to put up here with the bold and italics and underline. Those can go in there. I'm all for throwing in horizontal rows. I saw that one as well. And if there are some up here that I'm not going to be using, that I don't want, I think I like all of those though. I'm just going to save my changes. And now when I go back to my pages and I find my new home and I start editing it, that gives me all of those new tools. So if there are things that you would like to be able to do in the editor window, you can change that. You can change the editor. Ta-da. Underline, give it a color, whatever I want to do. We'll update that so there's something there. And now if I switch to the text view, you can see this as HTML. If you don't like HTML, just stick with the visual editor. Alright, if you've got any questions about making content and editing content, go ahead and let me know. I'm going to go ahead and click on the update to save it again. And then I want to talk a little bit about your navigation menu. Right now, this site does not have a navigation menu, so I'm going to start adding one. There are two ways to, in most themes, to get a navigation link or like on the Teller site, this piece at the top, this drop-down menu, these kind of things. This is done in most cases by what's called a custom menu. And a custom menu is going to be hiding under the appearance section. I showed it to you in the custom window of the theme, but the menus themselves live in the appearance section. All the funnest stuff is in the appearance section. Right now, I don't have a menu, so here's my main menu, and this is the only one we've got. It has nothing in it. The first tab up here shows me the newest things, so there's my new home page. But I could also view everything that's been created in here. I could also search for something that's in this site, and I can add it to the menu by just clicking Add to Menu. And now there it shows up. So I'm going to add a couple of other things here as well. And I'm going to add those. And if I had posts instead of pages, I could click this piece here and I could say, okay, let's put in one of those posts as well to the menu, so it's always showing up. And maybe I have a custom link. I want to go to the DPS homepage. You have to have the www or the http:// part as well, or it tries to look for a page named that rather than an address. Give this a specific name. Add this to the menu. If I am using posts and I have a category for a type of post, I can also choose just the category for those particular posts to show up as a link as well. So now I've got this collection over here, and if I save the menu and I look at my site again, I now have this line up here of those items. But that's pretty boring. I don't want all of those to be at the top. So I'm going to go back into my menus, and it's right underneath the name of the school. I have quick access to it from here as well. Or appearance menus, same place. Now what I'd like to do is take some of these, and I'm going to put the DPS one and indent it under the new home one. I don't want that to be a top level one. I want it, but I want people to be able to get there. And this iconography or typography, I want that under news. Icon variants, I want that under news. Our work, I want to be up here above news but below new home. Awesome gallery post, I'm going to put that under our work. And I can change the names of some of these. So I'm going to take off that word post. It doesn't change the item, but it does change how it looks in the menu. So I've got a lot of control about how I want this to look, and it's just an outline. When I save this and I go back to the site, now I just have these with the drop downs under where I put them. So if you use a custom menu, you've got a lot of control about what shows up there. And the first question I always get is, how do I add something new over here? First thing you have to do is create the content, create the page, and then come to the menu and add it to the menu. You can also automatically add new content, new pages. I don't really recommend doing that because you want to have a little more control over how many things show up here, so that your menu doesn't get too cluttered or too long. This 3 items that are all very short doesn't take up much space, but you can imagine if you've got a really long title for something and you add it to the menu, you might be breaking your menu. So you want to be careful about how you set that up. Give it some thought in terms of what goes in there. By the way, if you've got something that needs to be in more than one location, for example, we want to have this typography in another location as well, I can add it to the menu more than once. So if I want it in more than one location, I can put it in as many times as I want, and it's always pointing to the same item. Very easy to use. And I'm going to go back. Now I've got typography under new home and under news, and they both go to the same location. Alright, so real quickly I'm going to jump in here and see if any of you were daring enough to set up a user. No. Aw, disappointment and sadness. Oh well. Maybe next time. Alright. If you're interested in having your site revamped, please do contact Felicia Michael. That's the person in the communications office who will help you through the intake process. They will set up the theme, they'll install any needed plugins. Make sure though that you're ignoring updates. There is, for example, one plugin, and I'll show you this list of plugins here, that gets used a lot. It's this Simple Calendar, and that's the one that created the calendar items down at the bottom of the page on the Teller site. And somebody at Teller accidentally updated that plugin because it needed to be updated, and it broke this. So I had to find an older version of the plugin and move it back into the folder to restore that functionality. And that also brings me to another point. If you are experimenting with plugins, please make sure that you're keeping track of which plugins you've most recently installed, so that if it causes a problem and you can't get back into the site to delete it, you can let me know which plugin it is, and I have direct access to the server, and I can go in and delete the plugin from the server folder for it. So you can be a little fearless about installing plugins. The only one that is used commonly in DPS that I know has any problem is just the updated version of Simple Calendar, but if you leave that like it is, you should be good to go. Alright, so that's plugins. Plugins are a lot of fun. They add a lot of functionality, and so if there's something else you need your site to do that it's not already doing, there might be a plugin that's available to do that. Alright, so now that I'm in a more normal theme, you can see I've got many more options for where my widgets will go. Sometimes you can even use that custom menu that we created before and drop that in and choose which menu it is that you're going to be using. So let me put in the title, and this just says nav links or whatever I want to call it, and I should be able to select, oh there it is, click main. Oh, you guys can't see the drop downs. That's interesting. I can see the drop down on my screen, but it's not showing on the image that you guys are seeing. So there's a little drop down here. When I click on this arrow, it's showing me the list of custom menus that I've already created. Now on my screen I can see it, but for some reason on the video you guys are not able to see that. Interesting. So I'm just selecting that. You can see it changed to main. That's just go back to select. So interesting. I don't know if that's just a thing with Chrome on or whatever it might be. Most modern browsers are going to work just fine, and Chrome is actually one of the recommended browsers. If you try to use an older version of Internet Explorer, WordPress is probably going to say, hey, you should try a newer version. An updated version of Internet Explorer or Edge should work just fine. Firefox, Safari, Chrome should all be okay. So now that I've saved this widget and I close this and I go back to my front page, I can now see those links from my custom menu. So my custom menu could be anything. It could be just a set of links for parents. It could be student links. It could be anything you want. Alright, so while you're in here, I'm actually going to jump down a little bit to talk about setting up Chromebook bookmarks. Many schools have wanted to have a single page bookmarked so that when their kids use Chromebooks, they all show up at the same place. They'll have access to the same links. So here's the steps to do that. Back here on my site, I'm going to create a new page, and I'm just going to call this student links, and down below here I'm going to put in my links for iStation and iReady and I need another link, and all the sites that I want my kids to go to. And I select that text, and I use the insert link menu to go to whatever this address is. I'm just going to make it up. iready.com. I don't know if that's correct or not. Please don't use that if it's not correct. And I'm going to go ahead and publish this page when it's finished. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to view the page, and I'm going to grab the link at the top for this particular page. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to send an email to the DoTS hotline that says, hey, can you please add this link as a bookmark to our Chromebooks? And they will know what to do and who to get a hold of, and the nice folks that are managing our Google domain will add that as a bookmark. Then you'll never have to ask to have that changed again, because you can always come back to this page and make any changes you want on the fly, even as you're working with it. So for example, you want your students to start working on Lion databases, you can just add that in here. lion.dpsk12.org. Got that as a link. I update it. Now when the kids sign into their Chromebooks, they will be able to get under the bookmarks, it will take them to this page. If they already have the page open, you can change it, update it. They can refresh the page and get access to anything you want them to have at any time. So if you haven't done so already and you have access to your school's website, please sign in, create a page, make sure that it's got the information on here that you want, any instructions you want for your kids, links to additional pages or collections of links or whatever, and send that link into the DoTS hotline requesting that a bookmark for the Chromebooks at your school be added with that link. Then you've got a much more functional way to push out links to students at any time. Any questions? How are we doing, Sam? No questions.
So far.
You guys are quiet. Is there anybody still out there? Are you voting? What's going on?
It's 9.
There's 9 people already. Jeez. All right. Well, welcome all 9 of you. Thanks for spending some time here with us. I hope things are going well. Looks like I've been talking for over an hour, so that's kind of awesome for me, I suppose. I don't know how you're feeling about it. All right. Unless there are other specific questions about WordPress, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about a couple other things. But feel free to throw in a question and I'll come back. Thank you, Sam. This is rescuing my throat here. Appreciate that. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back.
And Ian says, does that work with guest users on Chrome?
That's a great question. You'd have to try that out and let me know if it works or not. I believe it would work with a guest access in Chrome, just because they are pushed, the bookmark is pushed to your subdomain, your suborg for your school. But that's a great question. I don't know for sure. I'm guessing that it would work for a guest access, but I know it does work when students are signed into their accounts. That actually would even work if they were signing into Chrome from home. If they sign into their DPS accounts, their accounts in Chrome, that bookmark will also follow them home. So, good question. All right. All right, next thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit here on this is the use of Google Sites. Google Sites have changed and will continue to be changing. In fact, you should expect some additional changes in DPS this month, but I don't know what all the details are on what those changes are, so I'm going to show you what Google Sites looks like right now, and you can expect some changes. Google Sites are a great way for teachers to manage their own online presence if they want to create websites, because they can create as many websites as they want. All right, so the way it's done now is through Google Drive. And in Google Drive, when you look at new and then you're under more, you'll find Google Sites in there. And the website that we're using for this session, in fact, is a Google site. Looks very nice. Google for probably 5 years did nothing to update their sites, and now they've got a really nice look, but it's also very preliminary and early. In other words, there are no add-ons like there are for a Google Doc or a Google Sheet or a Google Form. There used to be a really nice add-on for Google Sites called Site Maestro that allowed you to generate student websites. That's not functioning under the new sites, but maybe with the updates coming along, that might actually happen. We'll see. So this is the published side right here. Looks very slick. And in this second tab, I'm actually editing the site. So it's fairly easy. You want to change something, you click on it and you change it. So I'm just going to add the word web here, school websites for STRs. Nice. If I'm done, I just click publish and that makes the changes. So if I come back here to this site and I refresh my page, there it is. So that's all it takes. Just like in WordPress, you're publishing or updating. Same thing here. Under this drop down, which I can see these drop downs, that's nice. I can look at my publishing settings and I can view the published site. I can also unpublish it if there's a reason for me to remove this site for some reason. So under my settings, this is where that address came from. That's school sites for STRs. You can put in what you want there. Think about whether this is a site that's going to require people to be signed into their DPS accounts to see or not. If you're concerned about privacy and you want to make sure that things are tucked away nicely, it would be nice to add that, but you also will limit the ability of parents and so on to see the site. So anyone on the web isn't going to work, and that will work for parents. Anyone at DPS will not work for people who do not have a DPS account. You can also choose whether to allow your site to appear in search results or not. I'm leaving this unchecked, but if you want it published so that people can search for it and find it, you could do that as well. It's going to take some time before anybody actually finds this site and it starts showing up in results, but eventually Google knows everything. I hope that didn't scare anybody. I hope that wasn't news. Also, you've got more options. Take a tour is nice, a nice little tutorial that'll walk you through all of the different steps for things. You can also send them feedback like, hey, I'd like to have Site Maestro available for the new sites. That would be good feedback to send them. The more people who send that feedback to them, the more likely they are to actually listen.
I have another question.
Got a question.
Ian again. Can I create a Google site for teachers to use, or do they have to do that under their login?
So, good question. When you're saying you want teachers to use, if they just need to access it, they don't have to have editing rights, but you can add additional editors. And this is where it looks just like the share settings you have in a normal Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet and so on. I can add specific people in here. So I'm going to start typing in Ian. Oh wait, it's not Ian, is it? So I'm going to type in Sam instead. So keep scrolling down. Okay, type it out this way. There we go. Samuel Garza. I know that this is an adult in the district because it's the name instead of a number. If it had come up with a number, that's a student account. So I'm going to add Sam here, and I'm going to go ahead and send this to him, but I'm going to prevent him from publishing changes to access and adding new people. So I don't want him to mess with who has access, but I want him to have full access to making changes to this. So save that, send it off to Sam, and now Sam is in here as somebody who can edit the content or is even another owner of the site. That's what you would need to do for a student site. You'd need to create the site, add the student, add them as the owner. That way you still have the ability to check and see what content is there, but they can go in and edit their own site then. That site will show up in their Google Drive as another item type. So there's my item for school sites for STRs 2016. That is this file, which I'm editing right now. So I'm going to try something a little tricky here. I am going to create a new folder, a new form, and this is going to be really quick. So it's going to say update my WordPress. Here we go. Question number 1. It's not a multiple choice. Actually, yes, it is going to be a multiple choice. Please update my WordPress. Yes or no. And I'm going to add another box below that that just says name. And I'm going to make that a short answer. Did you see that? Did you see that? I didn't click on anything. Google knew it was a short answer question. I'm going to do it again. Watch this. You want to do this again? These are getting intelligent, people. It's kind of scary. Name of school. Now, see, I didn't even move the cursor and it changed the question type to a short answer. Google knows more than you do now. It's scary. You could change it, but it does a pretty good job of guessing what this content is. Alright, so that's my whole form. That's all I want to know is who you are and what your school is if you're going to need a WordPress update. I'm going to go in here to my settings and I'm going to not restrict it. That's on by default. Again, if you're sending this out to parents, you got to uncheck that when you make a new form. Under presentation, I'm not going to allow you to submit another response, but I am going to say, thanks, I'll update your site as quick as I can. Alright, that's good. It's not a quiz. Okay, save that. Come back in here to my options, and I want to get a let's see, what is that? No, I don't want to preview it. Oh, I always miss that block of text that says send. Everything else is an icon, and I keep forgetting you gotta click on that to find your send options. I'm gonna look at the embedding code, which is here. I'm just gonna copy that, and now what I'm going to do, and I'm curious to see how this works because I haven't tried this. This is live. This is not canned at any point, right? I'm going to make a new page that just says feedback. I'm done. I'm now on the feedback page. How is that? That's working. And I'm going to insert on this page from my drive my update WordPress. I bet I don't even have to use that embedding code. I'm going to insert it and it does the embedding for me. Awesome. I'm going to make this a little different because I don't want you to have to scroll around to find the other questions and stuff, so I'm going to make that bigger. And there's the submit button. Almost to the bottom. Come on. There we go. I don't care about the stuff below that. And I'm going to publish this page. Now, if you would like to, back here on this website, if you refresh that page, you should now see both a home and a feedback button. And on that feedback button, it takes you to this other page where you can fill in this form for me. How's that for quick and easy? You just realized you needed something and you were able to put it up on your website, directly connected to your other Google Drive items, and you're ready to go. So I didn't even need to use that. Cool. All right, spiff this up just a little bit. Color palettes, go to the pictures, and rock and roll. Here we go. Now it's a better looking form. Whatever. It's the same form, but it's kind of fun now. All right, I'm done with the form. I showed you how easy it was to add a page. I showed you how easy it was to connect it to other content you've already got in Google. And that is Google Sites. So again, how you create one. Under your Drive, click on New, More, select Google Sites, create as many sites as you want. Bam! How's that? That's fun. You know, it's kind of hard to know how the audience is responding here. So usually when people are in the room, it's more fun. But I hope you're enjoying this experience. I'm still kind of having fun. All right, other things that you might want to know about. Who's laughing? So I've told you why the district is going to, why these DPS sites are better than going with an external host. Hopefully you understand that. How in WordPress you can add users pretty easily. You can change themes and plugins. Rebranding efforts are helped with the communications office. How easy it is to do a Google site and how to add students or teachers as co-owners. How to set up a Chrome bookmark for your school. Think a little bit about responsiveness and accessibility. So those two things. Real quickly, schools often have a large number of parents who are really good at connecting to the internet by a mobile device. And when you are working in a WordPress site or one of the new Google sites, those websites are fairly responsive on a mobile device. In other words, the content adjusts to the size of the screen. In fact, some of the, I don't know if I can get it to work or not here. Let's see if I'm in the themes. Some themes will even show you what they look like in each of the different screen sizes. Oh wait, I know where that's going to be, if it's going to be anywhere. It's going to be in the customize section. So on my customized screen, which is, let me switch my size here so you can see that. On my customized screen, down at the bottom are my 3 different screen sizes. Here's a normal computer size screen. Here is what it's going to look like on a tablet screen, and here's what it's going to look like on a phone. So that's really nice to be able to preview that. So if you're working on a website theme that doesn't have these options, it might not be a very responsive theme, and you might want to change to a different theme that has more options for responsiveness. So I think that's really cool. That's built in, but I'm easily amused, so that's just me. All right, so that's what responsiveness means. Another thing to know is, let me go back to my page that I wrote before, this new home, and I'm going to add a new image. Actually, I'm just going to take one from the media library, and I'm going to put this little icon of this generic dude here, and before I insert it into the page, or even after, notice this alt text section. And this is just a place where you can add a description of that image. Think of this as a way to make your website more accessible in the same way that a ramp at the front of your school allows people in a wheelchair to be able to get into and out of your school. So I'm going to insert that image into my page. I'm going to update my page. And when I view it, now when I hover over it, theoretically, some browsers will display a yellow box with that alt tag, that alt information. If I were using a screen reader, it would read that alt text to me, so that if I'm visually impaired and can't see that image, I can still have access to know what that image is. It's very important to take accessibility issues like that into consideration when you're creating content.
So they're saying, so I don't have to do anything to make our website visible on phones?
Correct. Yeah, if you're using a nice responsive theme like this one, it's just it will just show up when they go to the web page for it. In fact, I'll just bring one up here. One that we've already looked at. Nice Teller website. And you remember we were looking at it before on the screen. And if you look on my phone, it's a very similar experience between these two places. And there's a little menu up here that if I tap on this, come on. Tap, 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 come on. That little set of 3 bars up there will give me the navigation links. Anyway, you can see how it's folded that content into a single column instead of the 3 that we see on here side by side. Same content, but it's showing it to you in a more mobile friendly view. I know on iOS anyway, I'm sure Android can do something similar. You can add that to your home page, and then it's just a single, it looks like an icon for an app that allows them to open your school's website at any time. But I'm not seeing those drop downs dropping down here. Not sure why. When it works, that's where it works. See if I go sideways. Ah. No, it's not doing it in landscape mode either. But landscape does also work. Same website, same content. So nicely displayed. So schools don't have to have an app if parents are used to being able to get to it from the web. Works really nicely. And basically, that's all an app is going to do anyway, is grab the content from your site and show it to them like it looks when it's a web page. And you can pay a couple $1,000s for a developer to do that for you. I'm being a little facetious there. I hope nobody's too offended by that. Okay, anything else here? I would like a little bit of feedback, and you're welcome to email me, or you're welcome to leave some of this feedback in the feedback page that we have for the session. If you wouldn't mind taking a couple of minutes, we'll go ahead and bring up that survey here for the for your attendance. I'm a little interested though in your experience with the commons, if you have any experience with that or not, and what you think the district should do there, and any feedback for the STR wiki, anything specific there that you would like to see. So here's the URL again, tinyurl.com/STR attendance, and if you would fill out the form that you see there, that would be awesome. And possibly even add a little bit of information about how you think the commons and the STR wiki could be improved would be some nice feedback for me. Not that I'm in charge of either of those, but it's always nice to get the feedback. All right. I've had a great time. I hope you guys have had a great time. Unless there are other questions for folks, that's all I've got, and I hope you've been able to exercise your right to vote. It's an important civic duty, and hopefully tomorrow morning we'll wake up and we'll know that 3A and 3B passed. Yay! All right, thanks everybody.